Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I have several adages, rules that I say just apply to human behavior, and I've said it repeatedly. Anytime there's money, there will be people trying to figure out how to scam that money, how to steal that money, how to get their hands on that money, even though the money is not theirs. And so this is going to tie in, and Brian sent this, thanks a lot. Brian with a Y. And this is pretty cool because it ties in with another topic we like to talk about on this channel, and that's homeowners associations. Homeowners associations. So the headline from thesun.com is, "My homeowners association board were arrested. Over $2 million stolen from residents after a monstrous fee hike was passed in secret." So there's a lot to unpack there, as we say. Rachel Dobkin wrote this. Board members from Florida's largest homeowners association allegedly stole $2 million from the members of that association. That's according to the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office. Former and current officials from the association that was in charge of 40 communities allegedly took millions from the organization and pocketed it for themselves in a scheme that lasted years. There was a whole bunch of people charged: the former HOA president and her husband, the current HOA president, a board member, and a former board member. 5 of them have been charged here. All 5 have pleaded not guilty. Now, the Miami-Dade State Attorney said in November of 2022, "Racketeering and money laundering are terms we usually associate with drug cartels. Never would anyone have connected such serious criminal allegations to one of the largest homeowner associations in Florida. The charges stem from misappropriating board funds to personal use," the state attorney said. And again, these are allegations. People have been arrested, they've been charged, but they've entered not guilty pleas, and unless and until they're found guilty, they are as innocent as the day is long. Okay? Legally. 10 months prior to being charged with stealing the millions of dollars, the HOA board held a secret budget meeting and then implemented a 300 to 400% increase in monthly maintenance fees, according to the Miami Herald. After these people were arrested, a resident spoke out about the high fees that she had been paying. "It was fine until this new board took over, and it's gone to crap," says a woman speaking to WSVN. Oh, it's a TV station down there a friend of mine used to work at. "I'm paying almost $500 to an HOA, which is ridiculous," she said. She accused the HOA of abusing their money. And it's one thing to be abused personally, but when someone abuses your money, yeah, that's serious. "This has really set me back. I didn't want to lose my house, so what else could I do?" she said. "They're threatening to take it away if I don't pay them." Meanwhile, another man who began supervising the HOA after the scandal came to light found that the scheme actually generated $1 million more than previously reported. He said in court in February of this year that the fraud turned out to be a $3 million fraud, and that was $3 million and counting, meaning it might go even higher. So the court ordered a receiver. And that's when the court says, okay, there's cash flow happening here. And the court is so concerned about this cash flow that the court is going to insert a receiver in here that's going to actually intercept all incoming cash and handle the financial needs of this entity. So the HOA at that moment in time was no longer getting the fees sent to them. It was going to the receiver who would safeguard them. And meanwhile, they said that having a receiver appointed was exceedingly abnormal for an HOA board. 4 other ex-HOA board members were also sued this year for allegedly playing a part in a scheme by allowing or failing to stop the ongoing misappropriation of funds by former board members, according to the civil complaint obtained by the media. Meanwhile, there's 4 people named in that lawsuit as defendants. And then last April, an election was held for 7 new board members. So they replaced the board. And one person who did very well in that election said it was a secure and fair election. the best I've seen in my 30 years here, and we feel relief. So they replaced the board, and it looks like this whole bunch of people on the board and former board members have been accused of all kinds of wrongdoing, some of them arrested. And it's either $2 or $3 million that may have been misused by these people, which gets back to my thing about anytime there's money involved. And I've mentioned before, I was actually on the board of a condo association, briefly, about 1 year. And the condo association had a board, and I don't know, 7 people on it maybe. But we also had a management company that we had hired, and they'd been in place for years. And they handled all kinds of stuff for us, including they handled the collection of the association fees, and they handled the books. And so every single board meeting we'd come to, there'd be an agenda in front of your place, and you'd sit down and you'd flip through the agenda, and then the management company's rep would come in, and it was the same guy every single time, good guy, and he'd come in and go, I'm going to walk you through this now. And he'd say, okay, here's how much money we've got in the account, and here's why. We started with this much money. We had these expenses. We brought in this much money in fees. By the way, here are how many delinquencies we've got, how bad they are. And then was interest earned or something. And then here's the grand total at the bottom. Now let's go over those expenses one by one. We go over the expenses one by one, make sure they're okay, make sure they're approved, make sure blah, 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 blah. And we watched that account, every penny of it, every single month. And now I'll tell you, it never occurred to me to try to get my hands on that money. But I'm just saying that anytime there's a lot of money someplace, there'll be somebody trying to figure out how to get their hands on it. And so I suspect that this homeowners association board didn't have the proper oversight with, I don't know, a professional manager, somebody who does this kind of stuff for a living. And keep in mind that all of the reports that were generated by this manager were available to anybody who wanted to see them if you were a member of the association. And I know that we also sent out newsletters, and the newsletters would often contain a little write-up in the bottom right-hand corner of one page that would just be a summary. And it would say, here is what the financials look like for this association. Here's how much money we got in hand. Here's what our projected costs are going to be, blah, 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 blah. Here's how much money we have to keep in reserve in case of an emergency, that kind of thing. So it's crazy that you see arrests in a situation like this. I've never heard of this. But it doesn't surprise me simply because you have an entity handling a lot of money, and people being people are going to go, gee, that's a lot of money. How do I get my hands on that? And when there's 7 people on the board or 5 people on the board, whatever it was, well, the way those boards work, you need to get everyone on board with respect to doing something like this. Otherwise, someone's going to go, you guys can't do that. So it's a weird situation. But Brian, thanks for sending it. From thesun.com, Rachel Dobkin wrote it. My homeowner association board were arrested. Over $2 million stolen from residents after the 300% fee hike was passed in secret, which, by the way, is something I kind of glossed over there. But somewhere along the way, they just decided to jack the fees by a factor of 3. And they said they did that in secret. And so I can tell you that when we had important things like that we had to consider, we would actually let the members know and say, by the way, we are going to have a meeting next month where we're going to discuss this major problem, this major project, whatever it is, and anyone who's a member of the association is welcome to attend and speak and tell us your thoughts and your opinions and your feelings. We don't care. Every now and then someone would show up, but for the most part, no. And I think that was a sign that most people thought, well, things are going okay here. Now, I do know that there was a special assessment at one point in time that people squawked about, but I seem to recall it was like $25 or $50, and it was for a limited time only. So not that bad, but this is a crazy situation because they've been arrested. Unbelievable. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Why is the word abbreviation so long?